Welcome, and thank you again for joining us this morning for the fifth and final of our five-part Turn to the Page STL webinar series, our Community Needs Assessment. My name is Lisa Greening, and I'm the project manager of Turn the Page STL. As always, a few housekeeping details. Introduce yourself in the chat box. All happy shout-outs and welcomes are encouraged. All webinar attendees who are participating are in listen-only mode during this webinar to avoid background noises or other distractions. However, we highly encourage you to actively engage with your thoughts, ideas in the chat box. And if you have questions for the presenters, please type them in the Q&A box. Kylie Bednar and Bernea Lester with UMSL have joined us again and will be responding to your chats and questions. This webinar will be recorded today, and a link will be sent to you via email by next week, including the slide deck and other resources that we discussed today. Also, at the end of this webinar, there will be a short poll, and we hope you will provide us with feedback to help us improve our next steps in our strategic planning. So with that, our agenda today, we have three outstanding guests with us today. Dr. Antonio Fierro, a national literacy consultant from right now in the state of Texas. We have Ms. Ali Seacoat, who's a research and data associate for the Clark Fox Foundation and project associate for Blueprint for Summer STL. And Dr. Vernice Hicks Prophet, director of elementary schools for the Jennings School District. As we discussed last week, there were 5 major factors that we found in our data that leads to a child not reading proficiently by the end of 3rd grade. Last week, we discussed kindergarten readiness as being a barrier and family engagement. Today, we will end with 3 other major factors: teacher preparedness, summer learning, and attendance, all leading to reading proficiency by the end of 3rd grade. As we discovered, high quality teaching of reading is very, very important. And it's important not only by the teacher, but by the family and the community. Because we went through family engagement and kindergarten readiness last week, I really want to focus right now on classroom teachers, K-3 teachers. When we collected the data here in St. Louis, that superintendents and chief academic officers of public school districts and directors of charter schools stated that most K-3 teachers are not taught how to teach a child to read based on scientific and culturally competent practices. Teachers are not even sure what good reading curriculum is when we met with them in focus groups. Joining us today is Dr. Antonio A. Fierro, a national literacy consultant. He's the former Texas State Teacher of the Year and currently a member of the National Letters, Language Essentials for Teachers of Reading and Spelling cohort of literacy consultants led by Dr. Louisa Moats. Dr. Fierro has contributed to several literacy curricula for English learners and has co-authored KidLips, a curriculum that teaches the phonetics of our language to young children. His areas of interest include early childhood education, phonology, and research that impacts English learners. Dr. Fierro is also dedicated to advancing the knowledge base and understanding of dyslexia and other reading disabilities, as his teenage son, Antonio Jr., has dyslexia. Presently, he sits on the board of the Reading League and the Southwest International Dyslexia Association. Welcome, Dr. Antonio Fierro.
Thank you, Lisa. Good to be here. Thank you so much. And as you could see, that photo was pre-COVID days, all right? So I thought, you know what, this will pass. And I told my wife, I'm not going to shave for, 2 or 3 weeks. And yeah, it went long term. So now I'm stuck with it and I kind of like it. All right. So anyway, that's pre and now this is current. All right. So let's go ahead and click to the other one. I want to give you a little bit of background as to what I'm all about and how I came about being so involved in reading and researching reading and studying that and going on to get my doctorate in this area. A fact that very few people know is that I have a degree in business administration and was actually hired by the Department of Justice shortly after graduating from college. I started off as an education major, then switched over to business, and then was recruited by the Department of Justice. I was assigned to the Federal Bureau of Investigations, FBI, and then realized that I was colorblind. Well, you cannot have an agent who's colorblind working with the Bureau. So then I was reassigned and I worked with the Bureau of Prisons. So, so I was in prison, not in prison, working in a prison, and worked in human resources and all the business portion of the facility. And I was outside of Dallas. I became good friends with the director of education there at the facility, and we discussed many of the factors that the inmates were going through and why they had to continue their study, and they were getting their GED. So he said that he was going to be in a bind, that one of his teachers there at the facility was going to go out on maternity leave, and he asked if I would step in because I did have some education background. And I said, well, that can't hurt, you know. So we got the okay of the warden, and that was my first encounter with grown men who could not read. Matter of fact, I would say that all the men who I tutored were probably at a second or third grade level, and that's when I thought, this is my calling. Can I go? Would you go ahead and hit the next button there, Ms. Lisa? And so I went to the university, went back, got my credentials, and in 1992 finished my credentials, and from there, go ahead, ended up with, was hired by the Dallas Independent School District. So I went from working with inmates one Friday, to being assigned to a classroom of 3-year-olds in the morning and pre-Ks in the afternoon. I think I aged about 5 years in a matter of, like half a year. And so what was really disconcerting to me, though, and what it really is now, is that much of the methodologies, a lot of the philosophy that I learned back in the 90s, unfortunately, is still being used today in today's classrooms, which is very unfortunate. We have almost 30 years of research that we know about. I'm not talking about Dallas ISD. I'm talking about across the country. We have not prepared our teachers the way that we should. Let's go ahead and fast forward. All right. So here we are in 2013. Well, right before 2013, and to be honest with you, several years before that, there is an ongoing, there was an ongoing thought, all right, ongoing saying that went something like this: thank goodness for Mississippi. And what that meant was that no matter how poorly a state finished on their NAEP report, the National Assessment of Educational Progress, which is the nation's report card, Mississippi was undoubtedly always at the bottom of the barrel. So no matter what, Mississippi was going to come down at the bottom, was going to come in the bottom. And enough was enough. So Mississippi said, that's it. The Mississippi Department of Education hired Dr. Moats and the team of researchers that I'm a part of, letters, and along with the Barksdale Reading Institute, the Higher Education Literacy Council, the Center for Excellence in Literacy Instruction out of the University of Mississippi, cohort consortium was developed, and we began teaching teachers the science of reading. Now, mind you, look at all the partners in this initiative. It wasn't just the Department of Education. It was the Department of Education. It was the Barksdale Reading Institute, which is a think tank from Mississippi that promotes and really supports and implements the science of reading and helps universities and districts across the state. So it was entities, several entities that came together that focused on the teaching of the science of reading. And that's what it was all about. So we taught in-service teachers the science of reading. We taught pre-service teachers the science of reading. We started including the administrators in the science of reading, and never lost focus of our target. What were we supposed to do? Teach teachers how to teach reading. All right. So that was in 2013. Lisa, would you move ahead? And what we taught was the science of reading. We all learn to read the same way. It doesn't matter what language we speak. It doesn't matter what part of town we're born in. We can be born in the South, in the North, in the East, in the West. It doesn't matter where we're born. We're all learning to read the same way based on science, all right? So here is a slide that I have of the reading brain, and you can see that there is not one neat little place where reading occurs, all right? Language is natural. Learning to read is not natural. I don't care what anybody says, it is not natural. It has to be intentionally and explicitly taught, which means that we have to learn and we have to understand what parts of the brain are responsible for what part of literacy. That frontal lobe where I have pronunciation and articulation, all right? That is the part of the brain that holds the phonemes, the structure of our language, the sounds that come out of our mouth, all right? In the occipital lobe, is the part that the part of the brain that starts processing the letters, the words, and individual letters, all right? Once we start learning to read and we read automatically and with automaticity, we process each letter in a word in a matter of milliseconds, all right? There's a like a magenta part of the brain that says phoneme grapheme association, phoneme analysis. That's the part of the brain, that's the angular gyrus that transmits, that makes that connection and transmits those written forms into phonemes, into sounds. It's not in one neat little place. You see that teal green area, that's a part of the brain that was going to be processing background knowledge. It's going to be processing vocabulary, all right? So we're not born with a reading brain. The reading brain has to be created, which means that we have to make the connections from the occipital lobe, which is in the back of the brain, to the front of the brain, and in the process be teaching vocabulary, background knowledge, all that part of the brain, that background knowledge and vocabulary in that middle part, that teal part of the brain. This is the science of reading. So, colleagues, I'm going to tell you, I'm very passionate about this. The science of reading, it is evidence. So when we're teaching the science of reading, we are teaching evidence. Evidence from the accumulation of research on reading acquisition and instruction that has been conducted over the last 4 decades. It is this accumulation of research that has identified effective practices. So simply put, colleagues, the science of reading is not an opinion. It's not a philosophy. It's not a philosophical belief even. It is science. It is what we know from research. The accumulated science of reading evidence, colleagues, should be trusted to inform the why, what, and how of reading instruction. I was taught by a philosophy back in the 90s when we didn't know, that's as far as we knew, that's all we knew. But now because of modern technology and now because of science and because of extended research through 40 years of practice, we know how the reading brain works. We know what methodology needs to be placed and done, but we're not done. There's still much more research that needs to take place, especially when we're dealing with the children who have reading disabilities like dyslexia, like my son, all right? And that's important, all right? That's important to know. So then fast forward to 2019. That National Assessment of Educational Progress, our nation's report card, in 2019 identified Mississippi as making the largest gains across the country. All right, we had the largest gains. And what was the reason for it? We had this vision. It was razor sharp vision. We had a target. We taught teachers, pre-service teachers, administrators, the science of reading. That's what it's all about. And we made the biggest gains, and we are heading nowhere but skyward, all right? We're heading up. And that's where I'm moving to, colleagues. My last chapter of my career is to help improve teacher prep programs. My family and I are moving to Mississippi and I'm going to help develop curricula that is going to that targets the science of reading, and hopefully becomes a model not only for Mississippi but for other universities or systems across the country. And let me go ahead and leave you with this last item here. All right. I'm going to make a recommendation, colleagues. Emily Hanford is a journalist, not an educator, a journalist who investigates education, who reports on education, and boy, does she get it. And what I like about Emily Hanford is that what she publishes is not it's not peered, reviewed information that appears in a journal, but for all of us, everyday citizen who can sit down and read what is going on. I highly recommend her work, Emily Hanford. Look up Hard Words. It's excellent. She wrote an article for the New York Times titled, as you can see, There is a Right Way to Teach Reading, and Mississippi Knows It. And what is it? The Science of Reading. Down at the bottom is my mentor and my teacher, our principal investigator, Dr. Louisa Moats. And let me recommend, she just published a new publication sponsored by the American Federation of Teachers titled Teaching Reading is Rocket Science. And I strongly, strongly recommend it. It is free. Just Google it, download it, and it explains to us all what expert teachers of reading need to know. And it is a powerful, if you just read up on my mentor, Dr. Moats, and my friend, Emily Hanford, you can start seeing how wonderful, what kind of results we can get by teachers who are informed, administrators who are informed about how reading is and should be taught.
Thank you, Dr. Fierro. Thank you for those strong words and encouragement. And the other theme or factor that we came across in our data and with the National Campaign for Grade Level Reading is the absolute importance of children participating in summer learning programs. Studies of summer learning programs in several different contexts all confirm that high quality summer programs can disrupt learning loss, that good old summer slide. Here in St. Louis, school leaders and educators, they actually don't have access to understanding where all of their students are during the summer and what type of learning is happening. But they all noted the importance of it. Families, however, strongly desired safe summer learning opportunities for their children. It's more than what happens in the classroom that adds up to a student receiving a great education. Fun and diverse learning opportunities ensure that young adults will develop their own creative pursuits, expand their education, and prepare for career success. That is from our wonderful local Blueprint for Summer Learning program here. I am so honored to have Ms. Allie Seacoat, Research and Data Associate for the Clark Fox Foundation and Project Associate for Blueprint for Summer STL. She's a native St. Louisan and serves, as we just said. She graduated from Truman State University in 2011 with a bachelor's degree in German and Spanish. And then Allie joined TFA, Teach for America, where she taught kindergarten through 8th grade Spanish and then transitioned to teaching kindergarten. While teaching, she loved working with students directly. Maybe she aged also a little bit like Dr. Fierro did with the kindergartners. We know. But integrating innovative approaches alongside traditional classroom curriculum and learning new things about the educational landscape, both nationally and in St. Louis. She saw a bigger opportunity to support families, schools, and students through the work with the Clark Fox Family Foundation. Allie was previously the senior programs manager for the foundation, but she has recently stepped into a part-time position because of her adorable son. In her role as Research and Data Associate, she seeks to create research and products designed to create better experiences for all constituents, higher engagement, and successful children in the community. Welcome, Allie, and thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me, Lisa. Yeah, I certainly aged, and my 2-year-old doesn't help with that, but can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. All right, go ahead and hit next. Okay, so in preparing for this conversation, I should preface by saying I'm a pretty big cheerleader for summer learning. I manage Blueprint for Summer STL alongside my colleagues, and we'll get to that in a little bit. But I am not from the military, but there are some interesting lessons from the military. So in the period between the 1950s and the 1980s, the United States military was really interested in this phenomenon of adult learning, retention, and relearning. Basically, we're training lots of folks in our military, and how do we make sure that the training that our recruits receive is retained, and what sort of retraining or retooling do we need to do? And so these are some things that they walked away with, which was the absence of practice or other reinforcement, that skills deteriorate over time. The rate of decay varies by task or skill. The best predictor is the individual's original level of learning or proficiency. So the more proficient you are, the greater the retention. And the training method that produces the highest initial learning and performance will produce the best retention over time. And that the time to relearn tasks was less than the time needed to originally learn them. I certainly know this is true in my own life. There are skills I was, as my bio, which Lisa so nicely read, stated, I was a German major in college. And yet if you asked me to speak German right now, I would probably start to sweat a little bit. So how does this relate to summer learning loss? Next. So what is summer learning loss, or what is sometimes known as the summer slide? It's what happens often to disadvantaged children in the summer months. They tread water or even fall behind, while higher income students tend to build skills more steadily. The average loss of reading and math computation skills are between 2 and 3 months every summer. And this is cumulative. Summer over summer, this continues to grow. So summer learning loss in the elementary school years alone accounts for at least half of the 9th grade reading achievement gap. One thing I thought was really interesting was that research actually suggests that 3 to 4 consecutive summers of high quality learning in starting in pre-kindergarten can get kids reading on grade level by 3rd grade. And turn the page, we know, right, the importance of reading by 3rd grade, but making them 4 times more likely to graduate from high school. Next. So I'm not sure if you all have had the opportunity to meet Ron Fairchild before from the Campaign for Grade Level Reading, but he had a part in this graphic, which I think so visually depicts what happens for summer learning loss, right? And how every summer, while students, these dashed lines show a similar rate of growth during an academic school year for both middle and lower income students, but then that summer creates that further and further divergence every year. Next. So why summer programs? This is the point in the presentation when I normally go off on this major tangent about how everything about summer is great, right? But there are some incredible stats that talk about why summer is so important. But one thing says that summer programs have the potential to develop sustained engagement and interest-based activities, which, as research suggests, may result in increased intrinsic motivation and initiative. This is sort of the nice way of saying, if you can get kids hooked on something that they're engaged in, it actually has a meaningful impact on academic learning skills during the school year. So get them hooked on something in the summer, get them learning, and then carry that intrinsic motivation, interest, and initiative into those academic skills during the school year. It's an opportunity for experiential education, the doing it of life, right? So as teachers, I was a teacher, we have a lot of curriculum to get through over the course of the year. And summer opportunities offer concrete experiences for students to actually get out there and do it, whether it's building something or creating something or working with your hands or moving your body. It's time. Frankly, it's more time. Summer programs, every summer program could do 30 minutes of sustained reading. It doesn't matter if you're a sports camp. When you're taking your water break, sit down and read a book. It creates supportive relationships with caring adults. There's health and safety benefits. outside of just being in a supervised place with caring adults, it's also, there's research that supports lower BMI for students that participate in a meaningful summer program. There's, you know, any benefit of summer you can find. And not to mention, it's just fun. So there's this theory called the faucet theory, and it's very interesting to me that says that, you know, basically the faucet's turned on for all students during the school year. But in the summertime, that faucet is often turned off for low-income students. So middle-class parents make up for this loss with their own resources, sending their child to, you know, a variety of camps. But working-class and poor parents often have difficulty in creating those enriching learning experiences. And this is what I think is so important. All parents want the same things for their kids. All parents want healthy, well-rounded, academically successful kids that grow up to be contributing citizens, and whether or not they have the resources economically or socially to have those things doesn't change the fact that all parents want the best things for their kids. Next. And similarly, there's some social connections, right, that help. We noticed this when we asked parents before creating Blueprint for Summer, how do you find out about summer camps? And in more affluent areas, oftentimes it was things like, well, you know, I asked my neighbor where they're sending their child to summer camp, or our church has this thing, and you know, I heard that this, you know, group has this thing, and so I found out about it. There's a lot of that networking and navigating to gain resources, but that social capital is often less common in lower income areas, and so they might not have as much access to the information, knowing things about the process and timeline for camp applications, or having the ability to influence their child's admission to experience a summer program. So that's where Blueprint for Summer steps in. Next. So this is about summer learning loss, but part of our answer to the problem of summer learning loss in St. Louis is tools like Blueprint for Summer. So we started in 2015 to create a user-friendly web app that helps families quickly and easily find information about local summer programs. So a family member can go on and say, I'm looking for an academic program less than 3 miles from my house that offers before and after care, that has scholarships, and is for a child that's 7. And our website sorts through the thousands of local opportunities and brings back only the opportunities that fit their criteria. We also have a variety of other platforms, including one about pre-college and college prep, summer experiences, and then Blueprint for Careers, which is career credentialing and apprenticeship programming for young adults. Next. And then finally, a part of our outreach with Blueprint for Summer is making sure that we're filling those social gaps, right? We are serving as a connector. We're making sure that all families, regardless of location, economic status, language barriers, have information about Blueprint for Summer and have information about the local summer camps that are available to them. Last summer, we listed almost 9,000 opportunities. There is certainly something, there was something in over 162 zip codes. And we also give that information back to community members as well as summer camp providers to say, hey, did you know that in this zip code, there was more people searching for a STEM program than there were STEM program slots available? Perhaps we should move some summer camp locations to make sure that we have equitable access for all. So in conclusion, I'm sort of the cheerleader always for summer camp, and I thank Lisa for making sure that we call out the role of summer and supporting kids on their journey with reading and learning.
Thank you, Allie. Perfect. Wonderful. Our last factor or theme that prevents a child from reading by the end of 3rd grade is if they're in the classroom. And a report by Johns Hopkins suggested that the national rate of chronic absenteeism is 10 to 15% of our kids. And the premise that schools fail to detect high levels of chronic absence because of data issues was confirmed by a study conducted by the Child and Family Policy Center and attendance work. Other studies confirm that chronic absence has a negative effect on students' academic performance, cognitive development, especially from children from low-income families. What we found from our data in St. Louis that all districts and early childhood programs are highly focused on issues of attendance, tardiness, and mobility, and all have a system in place that is attempting to combat the negative effect. The national research is clear, though, that the absence has a negative effect on academic performance and cognitive development. Teachers are particularly concerned about attendance, and students who are tardy miss language arts instruction, reading instruction, which is typically the first hour of the day. I am honored to be introducing Dr. Vernice Hicks-Profit. She's the Director of Elementary Schools at Jennings School District. Jennings, as most of you know, has many of those same issues of attendance, mobility, and tardiness, but has really become the leader in combating those with really out-of-the-box thinking and great leadership. Dr. Hicks-Profit has been an educator for over 30 years. She began in the St. Louis Public School District. She worked in Normandy School District and now is in the Jennings School District. Her commitment is to make sure every child receive a quality and equitable education, and it still remains true today. She possesses over 20 years of leadership experience spanning grade K through 12 as an instructional coordinator, assistant principal, assistant superintendent, school improvement specialist, educational consultant, and presently the director of elementary schools in the Jennings School District. She earned her doctorate in educational leadership from St. Louis University, her master's degree in educational administration from the University of Missouri St. Louis, and bachelor's degree in elementary school from Harris Stowe. Whoops. Dr. Hicks-Profit, I'm honored that you're on this call today to talk about the issues that your district faces with attendance, mobility, and tardiness, and how you've been combating that.
Thank you, Lisa, for having me, and hello, everybody. And, you know, I would like to just give a little bit of research background on attendance. And I know we can all agree with the research that shows the most influential factor contributing to student achievement is the classroom, in the classroom. I'm sorry, we can all agree with the research that shows the most influential factor contributing to student achievement is the classroom teacher. That's the most contributing factor. We have to have effective teachers in the classroom to start out. And we also can agree that students are more likely to succeed in academics when they attend school consistently. So that's something we can all agree on. But the biggest issue is how we can get them there every day and on time. And according to some of our research, the mobility rate is what is affecting this. And Dr. Macklin, my co-presenter, will speak more on what we're doing for that as well. The district, Missouri uses what's known as the 90-90 rule. Districts need to get 90% of students to school 90% of the time to get all the attendance points on their annual performance report. Now, this is a very challenging goal for everybody, but due to a collective effort in our district from central office, principals, teachers, parents, students, and the support staff, we have achieved the 90-90 rule in some of our schools. Principals and their staff have a variety of incentives in place. Some do pizza parties, and we're a uniform school, so Dress Down Fridays is a biggie. We get everybody, all of our kids are on school for Dress Down Friday because they want to show off their regular clothing. They're tired of the uniform look, so that's a huge incentive throughout the district, getting kids to come to school. Some schools, they have the movie nights, and we also have in place where we do parent-to-parent meetings where if a kid has, we don't wait till 5 and 10 days. If they're 2 or 3 days absent, we're immediately making phone calls and scheduling meetings with parents to find out what is it that we could do to help you to get your kid to school. So that has been very effective as well. Despite all of that, our attendance continues to be one of our biggest challenges. And we still have quite a few students absent. on a daily basis. But and like I said, we're working hard on that. And we all know that chronic absences, missing 10% of school of the school year, even 2 to 3 days every month, can lead to student poor performance in school, because students then they get frustrated because they have to play catch up and make up a lot of missed lessons. They're turned off and they're shutting down. And this is also aligns with the Annie E. Cason Foundation, that students who are not proficient in reading by the end of 3rd grade is 4 times more likely to drop out of high school than proficient students. It was stated that 88% of students who failed to earn a high school diploma were struggling readers in 3rd grade. And I'm sure you all have heard of the school to prison pipeline. So, and they usually look at 3rd grade achievement to determine how many students or children or folks will wind up in prison, which is something that we really seriously have to work on. As teachers struggle to increase student attendance and improve the reading achievement and other essential skills of their students, one factor that impedes their success is, again, student mobility. Unfortunately, student mobility is a common factor that disproportionately affects students in low-income communities. It affects, and I don't want to preface that to say African-American children. That's why I like to say the low income, because it also affects the students in rural areas. And no matter of your race or ethnic background, if you're in a low income community and you are living in a low income environment, that can affect students' education, period. It is very critical to make sure students in pre-K through 2nd grade receive the foundational skills in reading. So by the time students reach 3rd grade, they are reading to learn and not learning to read. And we hear that from a lot of our junior high teachers and high school teachers, that they are having to put remedial programs and instruction in the classroom to get students to be functional and successful at the middle school and high school level. And a lot of those programs are remedial reading programs that they have to utilize. And if we really focus on that and hone on that in our pre-K through 2nd, which we are in Jenny's doing, then that will alleviate that problem, and our students will feel better and more confident with themselves and will be excited more about learning. There are many barriers that cause high school mobility rate with all of our students, especially our primary students, because our primary students, they have to depend on their parents. That's one of the barriers. They have to depend on parents to wake them up in the morning, have them dress for school, and take them to school. And another barrier, which is out of their control, the students' control, is homelessness, which causes a great deal of excessive absences and in some cases missing months out of school. And again, as I mentioned, Dr. Macklin will share more information about our homeless population. It is very difficult, if we keep it, I mean, let's be real about this. It is very difficult for teachers to catch students up on a lot of missed assignments and instruction and build student skills. And because they do have a large number of students that could be frequently absent, they're in and out of the classroom. And I must say, though, that our teachers in the Jenny School District, they are really doing a great job. The principals and teachers have put in place in the school where students who have been excessively absent, they can attend the after-school program. And also principals has designed in their daily instructional program a set time for those students to also have a double dose of the language, art skills, and reading. So that has been working extremely well in our schools. Also, I would like to say that we in Jens, we do not focus on, okay, we understand that the mobility rate and student situations at home and family problems, yes, those are things that are causing some of the difficulties and challenges we're experiencing in our schools as far as instruction. But we don't focus on that. That's not going to get us anywhere if we just focus on that and complain about that. So what we do focus on instead, we identify and modify the factors that are within our control. That's what we focus on. And we reach out to parents. I mean, as you all know, some of you all may or may not know, that we holistically serve our families. We have food pantries. We have 2 clinics for our parents to attend and for our students to go to. And that will help students stay in school because parents don't have to keep them out for doctor's appointments and so forth. They can just send them to our school-based clinics. We have one for the elementary and one for the secondary level. And we have, we give our parents, since we're a uniform school, we eliminated that problem because we furnished them with the uniforms. And so we have put a lot of things in place to try to eliminate excuses and some challenges for our parents and families as well. So with that said, I would like to turn it over to Dr. Macklin, who will share information on student mobility in the Jennings School District, the causes and some of the successful strategies we have put in place to mitigate the attendance problems. Dr. Macklin.
Yes, welcome, Dr. Macklin. We have just 1 minute left due to time. I'd love for you to introduce yourself and also know that we as a group would like to get both of you very involved in our strategic planning for helping children get to school. So, Dr. Macklin? Okay, well, that's okay. We're gonna, yes.
Let me see. She was on. I did see her on. Let me find out what's
here. You know what? We're gonna go ahead, and that's okay.
Lisa,
like I said,
muted. She just
Lisa,
chatted.
she said she's muted. She can't. You have her muted, I guess, on your side, on your end.
Okay.
Send the number.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Dr. Macklin?
There you go. I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes, I apologize. I apologize. Just a minute or so. I apologize about the timing for this.
No problem. No problem. Very fast. I'm Dr. Veronica Macklin. Been in education. This is going into year 29, but I don't want to waste time with that. I am one of my biggest duties here in the Jennings School District. I'm over student services, but I'm also the McKinney-Vento liaison. That's the homeless liaison that's assigned to this school. And as a homeless liaison, let me dial back. The McKinney-Vento Assistance Act was established in 1987, which basically means that students that lack a fixed, regular, adequate nighttime residence does not have to be uprooted from their school of origin, where they have fallen into homelessness. And the law covers them to give them the choice of returning back to their original school, the school of origin, or enrolling into the school of which they have now a fixed, adequate nighttime residence. So as a liaison, I am the person that removes all barriers for those families. And like Dr. Hicks-Prophet had mentioned that, you know, one of the barriers is transportation and identifying students that are that have fallen into homelessness. We are a population of 12% that's coded as lacking a fixed, regular, adequate nighttime residence under the law of McKinney-Vento. And one of the biggest duty and the biggest barrier, like I mentioned, is transportation. Transporting, getting those students back, the new place of where they're staying, which could be a shelter, could be a hotel, could be with others. And in some, in some cases, we have parents that basically live in their cars where there is no address. But our duty is to get them to school. And as we know, that parents don't want to let the school know that they have fallen on hard times, basically. In this community where there is it's a huge renters community where our parents are basically have been taken advantage of. And it goes back to the person that spoke in the very beginning, literacy. A lot of our parents are low skilled and low willed workers, which means that they work all times of night. And their living wage is not enough for market rate rent. Or they have lost their subsidized housing for whatever reason. And so therefore they have to relocate. And so how we find out with identifying these students is that the attendance where the student disappears, or the student comes in very, very late, or the student is very sleepy when they do arrive at the school. So some of the, strong indicators of identifying those students. And then, myself and a social worker, we go in and we start to ask questions, and we, contact those parents. And one of the first things that we say is that we're not going to remove them from school, but basically we want to assist you with making sure your student gets to school and is able to participate in activities like they were, helping a parent participate in parent conferences and things of that nature. So basically the federal law of McKinney Mental Assistance Act means removing barriers. So, some of our strengths with helping those families is our food hub. If a parent has fallen into a hotel, we deliver food bags to the kids. Sometimes the kids don't want to be identified with carrying a backpack or a bag of food home, but we will deliver to that place of where they slept the previous night. Our clinics, we know that the parents, if they've lost their job, they probably don't have insurance, but the kids are lacking a shot or this, that, and the other. So with our 2 clinics that we have in the district, we assist with that, making sure that the immunizations are up to date. The transportation piece, the stigma that when a cab pulls up at the school, that means 9 out of 10 that student is homeless. So what we've done here in the district is that we've hired drivers, and we have unmarked vans, minivans, that go around and pick up our students and get them to school. And they really, really love that and have a greater appreciation for school because they're not being labeled and embarrassed. We also have a lot of partnerships, and I know I'm going over my time. I apologize. We work with a lot.
And I'm going to keep you involved in this.
We work with a lot of partnerships. I work with the Jennings Clergy Coalition that assists me with sometimes helping parents remain in a hotel. I am a part of the Continuum of Care of St. Louis County, where we all come together once a month, the homeless agencies in the metropolitan area, and brainstorming on how to assist families with rapid rehousing. And it's very important that the school districts are on that. A part of that is because we get groundbreaking information on when shelters are available, because we know that we don't have a lot of shelters here in the metropolitan area, and we don't have any in the North County area. So it makes it very, very hard. So our students just land all over the place. So it's very important for those partnerships.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Dr. Macklin. We're going to go, we're going to go to next steps. And like I said, Dr. Macklin and Dr. Hicks-Profit and everybody on this call today, this is just the beginning. This is just a call out all of the issues and factors that lead to a child not reading proficiently, and how it is going to take not just one thing to do this or two, it's going to take a tremendous shift, movement, foundation that all of these incredible presenters have presented today. Today is our last day of our webinar series, because what we know is that we're going to start our collective impact process. We have finished with our data collection, with our summary. Now we need to hear your voices. You will be getting an assignment after today, and we hope you will join us. We're going to be assigning people into 4 different work teams: kindergarten readiness, family engagement attendance, summer learning, and teacher preparedness. I'm going to email each and every one of you and call people. The first work team will be meeting in July for 45 minutes, each work team separately. That is when we want to get down to the root causes, and I want everybody in this group that has spent the last 5 weeks learning to now tell us what are the root causes and what are the root causes here in St. Louis. We'll come back in August, all of us, all 4 work groups to discuss our logic modeling. In September, We're going to come back for an hour. Each work team is going to work to select strategies. And in October, we hope to finalize our plan and finalize our strategic plan with actionable items. Between meetings, we will be asking you for your input and analysis of our plan. And I do hope everybody will be able to participate and help us get to our steps, because after the November election, our strategic plan will be publicly announced along with a reception, and we're having a huge St. Louis-wide marketing blitz. That a St. Louis that reads together succeeds together. If you are interested in a specific work team, please put it in the chat that you would like to participate in. Also, I've just put up a poll, and we would love for you to fill out this poll before you leave. And I want to thank everyone. Thank you for taking the 45 minutes, actually 52 minutes of your day today. We learned so much from these outstanding presenters, and we will continue the discussion with them from this point forward. So if you would like to talk to any of those presenters specifically, you just email me and I will make sure that I connect you. I know everybody here really wants our kids to succeed. Thank you all and have a wonderful Tuesday. Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa.
Thank you.